first in my new series, A Growth Mindset, and we have the lovely Lorlett Hudson here to talk to us all about her career, building growth mindset, and the fantastic wisdom and insight which she's going to share with us today. I'm super excited about that. My name is Ekua, and I'm a coach, and I work with business women and professional women to help them to slay the imposter syndrome and build confidence. So, without further ado, Lorlett, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to share my stories, my 20 years journey with you
Yes.
and your audience, because I know in these challenging times, so many people want to start their own initiatives and, wanting to know. So hopefully I can give some tips so people can go off and actually say, yeah, I can and I will and make it happen.
Brilliant. That is
So
exactly
thank
what.
you for the opportunity.
Yes, that's exactly what we want them to say. I can, and I will. And I will be doing that. I'll be taking action. Yes. So first of all, I'd love to ask you to share your story. Where you're from, what you do, and why do you do it.
Okay, so I was born in Jamaica, a very rural part of Jamaica in terms of a community. And in the community, it meant that, there's always someone who looks out for you. It's very, very close knit. And also a very small village school where, people really look out for each other. You have that aspiration of, you know, yeah, you're going to be somebody. So there's an expectations that you will succeed regardless of the circumstances. And for me, it's that community has enabled me to feel, wow, I am going to be somebody. And the great thing about it as well is that you get seen, you know, people see you. So no one would pass you by without saying hello. So that belonging is quite powerful. And I didn't realize the importance of it until when I started my business. The values in terms of community. You take so many things for granted, which is your culture and your heritage and your values. And so after leaving the community and came to London when I was 17, and it's what am I talking about? 17, sorry, 13. I've got 17 in my head. When I was 13 years old, and you see the difference, and you know the difference, and we still live in a very tight knit community as well because people were still tight until times change and situation change. And one day you wake up and you realize that the community is no longer around, the breakdown, like working in corporate, we used to look forward to the weekend because, there was parties and it was a time when you didn't have to get invited to a party. You just turn up, you hear the music and you just show up. So there was a lot of trust and there was lots of love and the music and the food, and it didn't really matter where you come from, people would interact, so there was a level of community. And for me, that's missing. That's really missing, right? So after leaving school, I went into corporate. I did a series of jobs, but all my jobs always lean towards guidance, people's development, learning, and aspiration. So I work in universities, I work in careers departments, and it was all about developing people. And when I got qualified as a coach in 2000, I decided to myself to start working for myself. And it was around tackling the conversations around young people underachieving in schools. So I started to run breakfast clubs. I contacted schools and I went and run breakfast clubs. And again, it was about developing these young people to see what's possible for them. So that was in 20, in 2000, so that's 20 years ago. And the name of the business, One Hand Card Clap, is a proverb. And I was brought up on proverbs, not biblical proverbs, but sayings that my parents used to tell me. And so I wanted to pass down that history and that legacy of speaking in proverbs and having, it's the black version of Shakespeare, to be or not to be, So that's it. And it really enables you to understand, the power of words, I mean, from a very, very young age, I knew how powerful words were, because when I was about 9, in Jamaica, we used to learn Shakespeare and Longfellow and people like that. So, when I was 9, I remember there was a quote that sticks with me that really resonates and understand the power of understanding that whatever it is that you want, you have to go that extra mile, So when you think about the heights of great men reach and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they while their companions slept, were toiling upwards through the night. So what I actually mean is that if you want something, you have to really go the extra mile, while other people are sitting down, not doing the work, not putting in the work. And that applies to everything that you do in terms of your business. You have to go that extra mile. When all your friends want to go to parties, or when your friends want to go here, there, and everywhere, you have to be the one who are in the office, working. And they will say, well, why are you working so hard? And you said, well, I've got to. Because if I put the work in now, then I will obviously get the results. Yeah? Make sense?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, I mean, Lorlett, what were you doing before you were doing your 20-year business? What experiences have you had before then?
As I said, I spent many years working in corporates, doing all sorts of different things. But you're always passionate about learning and development. I work for an insurance company, I work for education, I work in universities, I work in colleges, I work in training centers, and it was always about developing people around their potentials, really getting them to look at what's possible. Because quite often, what people would think, the imposter syndrome, which is what I read about in your book, you've got to be the one who said, I will, and I shall, and I'm going to, and not let fear get in the way. And one of the biggest thing I find with people is that thing around rejection. How do I deal with rejection? Yes, I want to go for an interview, but you get nervous around, are they going to want me? Am I going to be able to? How do I function in that sense? And what I say to all my clients, you have got talents and skills that they need you. Don't go thinking that they're doing you a favor. You have to say, I am the one. I am the one that I'm able to do this, and recognize that. But unfortunately, we haven't been conditioned to really value what is really ours. We look outside ourselves for validation, but really and truly, when you start to value you, start understanding your skills and your talents, then the world is your oyster. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And can you tell us any challenges that you may have overcome while you were working in the corporates or the other businesses that you were doing before?
One of my biggest challenges was, I'm the kind of person, I get my work done, and I always couldn't understand, why do I have to spend the rest of the time in the office? I finish, that kind of thing. So, I like the freedom to be able to determine my day, determine whatever it is that I'm going to be doing, and I knew all along that I wanted to work for myself. I knew that if I wanted to make a difference at the level I want to make it, I would have to work for myself. Because, somebody else determine what time you go to work. Somebody determine what time you leave. Somebody determine how much you earn. After a while, where are you? You lose yourself in the process.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Yeah. So why don't you tell us more about your company? Like, what is your mission statement? What are your programs? Like, what is all your company all about?
Okay, so one and clap is a Jamaican proverb, but when you really look at different parts of Africa, they do use proverbs as well, and they got their own version of it. And so one hand can't clap is a proverb that says, you know, no individual can survive by themselves. And I think the African version of it is it takes a village to raise a child in that
Yes.
sense. So, you know, you got your aunt, you got your uncle, you got everybody that really takes care of you. And if you use the concept around a business, you know, you got to remember that it's impossible for anybody to grow a business by themselves. It's impossible. You know, business got four components. You have to know your product, you have to know how to sell it, you have to know how to market it, and your operations. So you got to know those four components in their business. And one person is, when you first started, yes, you got to do everything. But if you really want to grow that business, you need to develop a team to enable you to do that, right? And what was the rest of the question?
So what products do you have and who do you work with, so people can really get an idea of, like, you know, what should they come to you for?
Okay, so I work with high performers, and sometimes high performers get in their own way, right? In the sense of they get really excited and not having a structure to really get the results. You know, so they're doing really busy, but not focused in the context of having a structure. I find most people don't have structures and they don't have systems and understand it. So, for example, if you're a person who you have a lot going on, but you don't have a structure, and then you hear the story around, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. Okay, busy doing what? What's the outcome? You know, how productive are you? So I'll help them to put a structure in place to enable them to become more productive. And one of the things I do is focus on your priorities. You know, what's the five key things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis? You know, so you put a plan in place on a Sunday to Friday, right? You look at what are you going to be doing? You know, so some key things. It could, like today, I had 3 podcasts to do. You know, one was at 10, one was at 1 o'clock, and now I got this one with you. So all those are priorities. But there's other things that I do, but I know the times when this is going to happen. If I hadn't put them in my calendar, then I'd be running around thinking, oh my goodness, when this is. So you really put the key things which you know you've got to do on that particular day in your calendar. The other thing is, if you really want to know how successful someone is, right, show me your calendar and your bank statement, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt how successful you are.
I see. Is that all it takes?
Yeah.
And do you only work with Black professionals, or is it wider than that?
Well, my focus, I set the business up specifically for that before George Floyd, 20
Yes.
years later, and the conversation is still happening. Lack of representation, you know, people are not getting promoted. If you look at graduation ceremonies, for example, 9 times out of 10, the amount of Black graduates that you actually see, you know, from all different parts of the world, and yet it doesn't reflect in senior management roles. So they're graduating and they get first class degrees and all the other classes that they might get, but they're just not getting the jobs at the level that they ought to. So I'm looking at the representation. You know, 20 years ago, I was looking at that and I'm still looking at it. So there is that pipeline of leaders, Black leaders and professionals, enabling them to recognize what's possible. Because sometimes it's just a matter of tweaking your communication, tweaking the things that you do in that sense, you know, so it's understanding that. Sometimes it's just having somebody say, yes, you can, and walk you through what you need to do, you know, because when you look at other communities, they're social capital, you know, so you might have a son or a daughter who have left school and you just make a phone call. You know, many of us don't have that infrastructure in place. So it's a very lonely place at times, you know, in that. So this is where the coach comes into it. Have you considered this? Have you considered this? The other thing is, you know, getting used to asking for help. You know, that's something that we don't do very well as a community. It's how do you ask for help to get to where you need to get to in that sense? And, you know, it's who you surround yourself with as well. Because if you're around the same people who are like you and don't have the insight like you, sometimes you have to step out of your comfort zone. Like myself, I go to conferences all over the world, whether it's Helsinki, whether it's Vienna, wherever it is, to find out what other leaders are doing, what our corporations are doing, what's the new insights that's happening, and forever learning and developing myself. Because as leaders, you've got to find out what's happening. It's no point spending 25 years in a business and I've never done any training or development on yourself. So really and truly, what I normally say to my clients who haven't done any training, you've been in that job 1 year and you're doing it 24 years over and over and over. The same thing you've done. So, it's like Groundhog Day, isn't it? Same old, same old, same old, same old. So you've got to develop yourself. You've got to learn and develop yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you about your cards, things Mama used to say. What do you use them for? And what's the inspiration behind them?
Deep-seated coaching, because every card have a lesson. So, for example, my grandmother would say something, even like one hand card clap, right? There's a story behind it. So if you pick a card and it says one hand card clap, then I would ask a question, like when I go into corporations. It's about teamwork. How are you practicing teamwork in your team and understanding that? The other one is you can't sit on a bucket and draw water at the same time, so it's impossible. Why would you want to sit on a bucket and want to draw water at the same time? It just doesn't make any sense, does it? You have to get up, you have to take action, and you have to walk to go and get that water. And you apply that to everything in your life. It's so true. Whatever you want, performance is about action. Action, action, action. So even though they might be my grandmother's proverb, they are relevant today as they were then, because nothing happens until you take an action.
Yes, that is very true. That's very true. So speaking of action, what actions do you think that Black professionals should take to help them get ahead in terms of, development and developing leadership capabilities?
The first thing I always ask my clients, what is it that you want? Really, really and truly chisel that down. What is it that you want, right? And some people say, but it's money. And I would say, it's not money. Because if I give you a whole room of money and you have no one to spend it with, you have no relationship, what are you going to be going with it? So it's about understanding what is it that you really want? What's fulfillment look for you? When you wake up in the morning and you're excited about your life, what is it that you're doing? So once you find out what is it that you want and go for it, so somebody might say they want a job, but the job is not just the job. It's about, security. It's about safety. It's about really understanding that you can take care of your family. It's peace of mind. You can sleep at night. You don't have to worry about how you're going to pay your bills. So it's all that and understanding what is the job going to give you. So it's not just about applying for a job. It's about what is the job going to give you, right? And once you have that chiseled down, the next thing is, who do you know that can help you to get there? And what you're going to do when you get there. What is it going to take in order to understand that? Yeah?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, as we are all Black women here, I'm going to ask you, a lot of us face stereotypes in the workplace. What do you think might be mindful of this, or do you think, we shouldn't worry about that and we should just bring our authentic selves to the office? Like, do you have any views on that?
I think, again, it's about a sense of belonging. It depends on the environment. It depends how you see yourself. I mean, it's a very complex situation, right? And you have to know yourself at the level that says, this is me, this is what I'm about, and this is where I'm going. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that. It takes something to have that level of confidence, because whether we like it or not, we live in a world which isn't equal, right? People have their perception, what they've been told. Like last week, there was an article around the chief executive of Wells Fargo, and he was saying the reason why there's not enough diversity in Wells Fargo, the bank, is because of lack of skills and talents. There's not enough Black people who's got skills and talents. So my question is, where are they looking? And also the thing to get is the CEO of a large bank? What conversation is he having? Because then people hear that, they listen to that, and then they reflect that in the sense of, well, Black people are not talented. So, how do you get promoted in somewhere like that? Because if he's the CEO and he's actually saying that, then what message is he actually passing on for other people? And this is what I said, change the language, change the culture, because what you say matters and it has an impact, so it's about that. And, it takes something to actually own yourself. And, your book again, be your best cheerleader. You have to be the one who take yourself on at all times.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're right. It's a two-way street. We both have to be mindful of being aware of ourselves, but also, knowing the environment that we're in and presenting our best self for that environment, to make it work and to do the things that we need to do so that we can, progress as we would want to. And then, other times we can, do our own thing, go to those parties, and do our thing there slightly differently than we would do in the office.
Yeah, and learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Because, we all are different and we have different perspective of, because no two people look at life the same. So you can learn from each other as well. Become curious. Become curious about people.
Yes, yes, indeed. And what would you say that you should try and, learn from other professionals? Like, how can you, is there a different field to us? How can we, use our expertise to help us think how we can develop ourselves? Or do you think it's just about having the right people around us so that we can be involved in different conversations to get different ideas?
I mean, learning from other people is the key. That's why they're written books. That's why books are written, from different perspectives. So, what is it that you need to learn at the level of, that's why Google exists, because people don't have all the information that they want. So they go to Google. It's the same as another human being. The biggest thing you can do is learn from other people, the experience that you want, because everything that you want, somebody's already done it. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything is already there. What is it going to take? So you are in an organization, you need to find out who you're building relationship with. What relationship? The other one is a sponsor. When people heard about sponsor, they think it's somebody who's giving you money. But a sponsor is somebody who speak up on your behalf when they're in the room making decisions about who gets promoted, because maybe every quarter there is a meeting that's been had in terms of who get promoted. And, you need to know who's talking about you in that room on your behalf, because those meetings, you might not have access to it. And it's understanding that, yes, somebody has got my back, and that's it. And, any job that worth having 9 times out of 10 is not advertised. It's not advertised. It's given to who that person wants to be working with. And what you want to do is create that relationships to enable you to get promoted. Again, we believe that we have to work really hard in terms of being noticed. No, you have to be strategic in terms of what you got to do. What does it take? The minute you got in there, what does it take to get promoted? And find out what that means.
Yeah, for sure. And do you think that people should try and find a mentor within their organization to help them to get promoted or to find the track for progression within that company? Or how do you think that they should approach the mentorship aspect of their career?
First thing to do is to find out, what does it take? What is it going to take for me to progress here? And who do I need to speak to and find that out, because it's relationship, the relationship currency. I always say relationship is the biggest currency on the planet, because those relationships, you nurture them and make sure, that you look after those fundamental relationships. And having a sponsor, got to have somebody that's advocating on your behalf. If there's no one advocating on your behalf, it's not happening. All the promotions coming up, no one's thinking about you.
Mm, mm. And then just keeping with that theme, how do you think that people should show that they are actually, doing well in their job? Should they, seek to, have opportunities to showcase their work? Should they be telling their manager what they're doing? Or like, how do you think that they can keep the good news cycle about themselves going when they're not there in the room?
First and foremost, you need to find out, how does your job have an impact on the bottom line? How is what you're doing? The amount of people who I coach and have conversation with them at the level said, okay, so how did what you contribute to cause the revenue to come in? How did it have an impact on that? And nobody knows. So how well did the company do revenue wise? Have no idea, because you just gone into work, just push papers and that's it, and not look at the bigger picture. And even though the information might be going around, you're not really keen because you're too busy around, okay, I'm keeping my head down and hopefully somebody will notice me. No, you need to find out, what does it take for me to be seen as contributing to the bottom line?
That's very true. That's very true. And you shouldn't be afraid to, one, find out, and two, to be telling everyone so that they know about it, because no time to be shy.
Question. So how did we do? What was the bottom line? How we do this month? And in meetings, and another thing, find out something which is added value. It could be something that you read. You got to be strategically seen as an expert, because when you're seen as an expert, don't go into a meeting and not knowing what's happening and being relevant. Everybody wants to know that somebody add value.
Okay, I just have to ask one more question on this topic, which is, if you go to a meeting and you're invited, presumably you should always speak up, right? With that, your thoughts?
Definitely. Make sure you have something, look at the agenda. Look at the agenda. Ask first and foremost, is there an agenda, right? Don't just show up there and thinking, oh, and then when things are said, oh, I didn't know this. It's your job to find out, a meeting being called, is there an agenda? What's on the agenda? So you can go and prepare and get yourself really clued up to what's actually happening. So it can be a contribution. But if you don't ask for an agenda and you showed up at the meeting and everyone's having a conversation, and because you haven't done any research, then you shouldn't. That's it.
And then what about if you have like a regular team meeting every week, and you have to report about what you're doing? Do you think you should just say what you've done, or do you think you should say it in the most positive way? Like, what would be your advice on making sure that what you say is actually going to be helping you and not just be a dead weight, as like you're just doing the minimum, or you're just doing,
So it could be, I made 20 phone calls, and the response from that is, this is what happened, so in order for me to secure this is what I had to do in order to. So always look at the results. Look at what results you produce all the time. People don't tend to, especially our people, we never seem to talk about what is it that we cause. I remember one client I was coaching, and I said to her, so what did you cause? What did you cause to happen? And her response to me was that causing mean that she causes trouble, in that sense, in terms of what she heard, not, what she made happen. The minute I said, so what did you cause this month? Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? So, we need to understand language as well. What does it mean?
Yes, no, totally. I totally agree. Yes. Okay. So now I would love to ask you what you found useful or insightful from my book, and a tip that you'd like to share about growth mindset.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The whole thing around Carol Dietrich,
Oh,
when
yes.
he talks about mindset, it's that it has an impact on everything, that whole mindset. Because if you're not growing, you're not learning, you're not expanding, you're not evolving. And there's a book I read by a guy called Marshall Goldsmith, and he said it, what got you here isn't going to get you there. So it's understanding that you're forever having to learn, having to expand, having to grow. What book are you reading? Who are you tapping into? What courses? I mean, I've got a course that I'm doing on Thursday called the 5 Levels of Leadership, because it's about understanding there's different levels, so one day you might be here, next year you'll be somewhere else. So the mindset that you might have this year, if you're going to go to the next level, you got to think differently in that sense, so the mind, the really growth mindset is that you're open to learning and really passionate around that, and making sure that you are developing, you're learning new trends. Like with COVID here, I've had to learn how to operate on Zoom. I've had to learn how to do so many things, how to be on webinars, my whole presentation. Normally you would go out and have a conversation with people. Everything now is done online, So if I wasn't one that was prepared to learn and develop and take on myself, I wouldn't have a business. But the vision 3 years ago, I started to do that without even knowing what's what, because that's where the world's going. What they say, you either innovate or die. So that whole thing around the growth mindset, yeah, it was great to see in your book. Yes, definitely.
Oh, amazing. Thank you for that. And Lorlett, what would you say is one small thing that someone could start to build a growth mindset? Like if they're feeling overwhelmed, they know they want to become less of a fixed mindset, but it's something that they have to work towards because, they've traditionally been, like, okay, I only know these things, I'm going to stick to these things, and at least it works for me. And now they want to be like, you know what? I want to learn something, but I don't know which way to go with it.
I'm going to give you a very small example for myself, right? Every so often I change my bed around, right? And what I mean is I have to rethink the way I get to my bed in that sense, because I change the room around. As a child growing up, my grandmother used to always change the bed around, and I never understood why she used to do that. But now I understand. It gives you a different perspective of how you think, so this is this. And, you really look at, there's some fundamental changes there. A simple thing like that. Or it could be that, you normally wake up at 5 o'clock and you say to yourself, well, I want to be a little bit more productive. So you'll get up at 4:30. That's just an example of that, just small things that you normally would do. Even your drink, you might be somebody that take 2 sugars and you decide to yourself, well, I want to be more healthier. So you take 1 spoon, even like that. And it tastes horrible because, you're accustomed to having 2 sugars.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. There are very small steps that we can all take to be open to new experiences, whether it's, exercising more, reducing our sugar, reducing, things that we...
Or even go somewhere that you've never been before.
That's true. That's true. Experiencing different walks or different runs, that all helps us learn and have new experiences.
Even managing that risk, and, an example of a fixed mindset is, oh no, I'm not eating that. I'm not eating that. I'm not even going to even touch it or whatever else. But, you never know until you try it. And there's lots of people are fixed around that, no, I'm not touching that. No. I believe in try something once. If you don't like it, how can you tell somebody, or how can you give an experience? Because everything is an experience. And if you've never experienced it, then what?
Yes.
I mean, I don't drink alcohol, but I remember somebody saying, taste the champagne. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, right.
Okay.
I taste it once, and then that's it. I knew I didn't want it.
I mean, Lorlett, you don't need it. You got enough energy to keep you going.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you, can you share with us one of your favorite proverbs or inspirational quotes, to keep us pepped up?
So, let me see. Have I got my book with me? So this is the box.
Yep.
Things Mama used to say. And as I said, it's really 52 deep coaching, and it gets you to really think about your values, right? So this one, what it says, you know, if you want, can you see me?
Yep. Look at him. If
You know,
oh, I can't quite read that.
okay. All right, I'll read it. So if you want good, your nose off your run, right?
Mhm.
If you want good, your nose off your run. What do you think that means? If you want good things, your nose have to run, So imagine, look at the metaphor and the imagery. So imagine there's hard times, there's something that you want, it's snowing outside, it's raining outside, and your nose is running and all of that because, you could be indoors in the warmth. So it's about understanding that. So if you really want good, your nose have to run, meaning that
you're going to have to work for it.
Succeed in life. You have to take yourself on. It's not going to be easy, that whole thing. And then if I was coaching somebody, I would ask them, give me an example when, you had to be really courageous and take yourself on, even though it was uncomfortable, and you done it anyway, and recognizing you would not be where you are today if you didn't do that, It's the same like when you're studying and you are doing a degree, you're up all night writing because, you could be out with your friends, as I said earlier on, but what you do, you've taken yourself on and said, I want a first class, I want a 2-1, or I want a 2-2, whatever it is, I even to pass, for some people, that's as far as they can go in that sense. Just the idea of passing, that's a breakthrough for them in that sense, because they might have problems writing essays, they might have challenges structuring their sentences, and just the sheer fact of passing, that's a massive accomplishment for them.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And do you think, well, that you need to feel some discomfort to know that you're really pushing yourself to be more that you can be?
Well, you know what they say, no pain, no gain.
Yes.
You don't appreciate it. If everything is just given to you on a plate, then, how do you appreciate it? But when you work hard for it, you appreciate it more in that sense. And strategically, I don't mean really physically, but mentally, strategically. Imagine that you put a structure in place and it worked to the point that, wow, intellectually, I'm smart, I'm bright, I can do this. I've made this happen. Yes. And the key thing is do as little as possible, right? And produce the most results. You hear about the parental rule, right? That 20% of what you do give you 80% back. So it's that strategy.
Yeah. I see. Food for thought there. Food for thought there. Okay, cool. So, just before we wrap it up, we would love to know, what is on your agenda? Where can people find you? Are you doing webinars? What can they, if they want to do a group program or one-to-one, what are you offering at the minute?
Okay, so I do one-to-ones in terms of exploring with people. What is it they want to accomplish? Whether they want to set up a business, whether they want to get promoted, whether they want to understand corporate cultures, whether they want to write a book, whether they want to do poetry, or whatever it is. I help them to really excel. My mission is to help you excel, and do whatever I can, share my experience, take it to the next level. And really around high performers, people who really want to perform. And quite often, as I said, that could get in the way, because sometimes you might think that you're too smart. I'm smart. And when you're that smart, then I don't need any help, even though you're thinking. Is being able to recognize that I don't know what I don't know, so I definitely need some support. So as a coach, this is what I do. I help people to excel in whatever it is that they want to accomplish. And if you want to find me, my website is www.what's onehandcanclap.co.uk. That's onehandcanclap.co.uk. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter as well. I'm always on LinkedIn. So please come and like my profile and link with me and reach out by all means.
Well, I can't let you go without asking, is your retreat still being planned? Your Jamaican retreat, is that still?
Yes. For people who have visions and really, this is going to happen because of COVID. I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but it was going to happen in this October. And now I've put it back to February. And this is a week-long retreat where I work with you to really chisel down what is it you want to accomplish, because quite often we're so busy, tied up into what we're doing, whereas you just have that space with other like-minded people. So it'd be like a boot camp, it'd be like a mastermind, where people actually come and you get the support and you leave with an action plan for you to go and do whatever it is that you need to do. So it might be that you want to write a book. It could be that you want to start a business. It could be the strategy, I want to leave my job. It could be even moving to another country, whatever it is. Sometimes just brainstorming with other people who've done it before make the journey much easier.
And roughly how many spots are there on this retreat?
3.
Okay, well, it's a very small group. So if you're
there's 10 people. I've got 7 people booked up. And the possibility of another 3.
Okay, brilliant. Well, you heard it here. If you want to go on Lorletts retreat to Jamaica to get a personal mastermind with a group of 10 people and exchange ideas and learn from each other and really get fire and energy, then you know who to contact.
Yes, so my next intake will be the 21st of November. That's when my next intake for my next program for next year. So if anybody wants to join me, contact me and we'll have a conversation around how I can support you to your next level. Okay,
and is it just a conversation or do you have to fill it on the form, or like what's the process to get to
we have a one-on-one conversation. I can sort that out in Zoom, and get that sorted really. Yes, definitely.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Lorlett, for your time, your energy, and your wonderful tips, because there were so many.
Thank you for having me. It's a great experience, and I think there's nothing more exciting than to be able to share your experience with other people. Because if you can make a difference to an individual to do something that they wouldn't necessarily do before, then that's it. And that's what leadership's all about. It's all about influencing. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. And be my own cheerleader.
Yes, be your own, everyone out there, be your own cheerleader. And take action. As Lorlett says, I can and I will. Is that what you started with?
That's right.
Exactly. So without further ado, let's all have a great evening and be inspired to take steps to achieve our goals. So
thank you all for being on the call and take the time out to be here. Because, this is what leaders do. This is what high performers do. Always be curious and take yourself on. You never know what might happen along the way. Be curious.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.